Center Living. Look, I told you. Who brings you the folks at the center of the news? You mean you can go watch some other show if you want to be behind on this stuff. You want to be up to date. We want to thank United Fiber and Corey by Man for bringing us folks at the center of everything. I used to call him Dean Plocker. Now, some people call him Defendant Dean Plocker. Speaker, I think you're so much like the Donald. I'm going to start calling you the Dean. What does it feel like to walk in the same path Donald Trump walks in?
Well, it's frustrating, to be honest with you. It's hard on my family. It's hard on my wife and kids. It's been going on almost a year now, at least for 8-9 months. So, but we're fighting through it. We're fighting through it because it's the right thing to do. I can't be more proud of my wife and kids for standing by me. I didn't realize what was at stake, I guess, when I became speaker.
Do you know how many Republican candidates right now are dreaming of a world where the swamp would come at them, they would beat the swamp, then they would do just like with Trump, go to lawfare to try to harass them? I'll tell you how many. Every single Republican running right now would love your narrative.
I think they might like the narrative. They don't like the attacks, right? I feel really bad for my wife and kids. The attacks have been relentless.
A lot of people feel bad for Melania, too. It
Yes.
is tough on people's family. I seen they were giving Bear and Trump grief the other day. I get the family part. But as far as, I mean, honestly, your message running for office, right, when you first started this campaign, was probably pretty similar to everybody else's narrative running for office at this campaign.
It was when I first started in there. You know, I'd served as a judge and a prosecutor. I believed I wanted to make government smaller, do this and that. But I've taken on a new path. I mean, what I've discovered in the last 9 months in trying to affect that, the liberal entrenched bureaucrats that are trying to run this state have us at grave risk, and we have to fight back against that. And that's what we've been doing.
Do you think they wanted it felt to me like a scenario. And look, I'll just be candid with you. I've always liked Dana. I've always respected her. I know her family. I know some folks in her family very well. I've been stunned. The stories I would hear other people tell, I'd be like, oh gosh, that just doesn't fit my thought. But just to recap this, so you fire a staffer. I think anytime you fire somebody, it's kind of on you.
I announce I'm running for statewide office, and a complaint gets filed against me.
Okay.
I've tried to reform what's going on. I believe the people elect a state representative to come up here to Jeff City to affect conservative policies that they voted on. At least the conservatives, fortunately, had the majority. But we found it very difficult to get our conservative policies advanced because of the entrenched liberal bureaucrats. They've been fighting against us the whole time. I recognize that. You have a very small window to take action. And as speaker, I have to do that. That's my job. That's why I came here. Now, the fight is taking on a different path. I was here. I came up here to do different things, but then I realized the bureaucrats are running the place. That's not what democracy is about. The people need to have their representatives work for them when they're up in Jeff City, not unelected bureaucrats.
It's a question of who's in charge, right?
Absolutely.
And look, I'll just put it back to you though. You've been here 9 years now. I think part of the there is no question you would have to be the world's biggest fool to think the way that place is ran is the way it should be ran.
I would agree, but
it's also been on all 9 years you've been here, and it goes back another 10 before that it's slow. It was slow, like the frog in the pot. I watched you guys. You wasn't worth the fight, and incrementally you look up and you have very little stroke around there. Well, no matter who elects you.
And once you become the speaker, you finally have the ability to affect some change and to bring the population back to voting on their representatives so they actually have bona fide representation in the Capitol, and you can fight for the Constitution. And that's what we've done. We fought for the people. We fought for the Constitution. We fought against these liberal bureaucrats that are running the state. And that's why this fight is continuing. And it's an honor to do this. I never thought that I would be in this type of situation, but I am. And now I'm here. We're going to keep the fight going.
So when this first came out, I thought, well, you did screw up your expenses. That's just a fact. You messed them up. You had to apologize. Probably wasn't a great day, but we've all screwed things up. On the level, it wasn't a 10 on 10 mistake. It was a mistake. So you move on. And then they keep this going. And I'm like, well, okay, they want to do a thorough job. Then they want to hire some outside lawyer. I'm like, to investigate what the guy just said. So, okay. Then this goes on, and it becomes pretty clear there's a vendetta. And a very nice lady is become a union representative for some aggrieved employees. Then after it's a 7-2 vote, They dismiss
I was
all the
vindicated,
charges.
dismissed outright.
A process that can't vindicate you has no credibility to cast judgment on you. And you got
That's
vindicated
correct.
by the process.
Yes.
I thought, okay, there were some people twerked up. This happens. This has been real weird. This has been the most crazy example. But okay, we're gonna move on now. They don't move on. The lawsuit crossed the line to me. It reads like a bunch of gossip. Some of the stuff is just it's just petty and silly office talk. The lawsuit to me crossed the line from okay, you might feel some level you have some wrong you're trying to expose or you're a bad guy. After the ethics committee voted, after the most strenuous investigation we've ever seen, the lawsuit just looked like sour grapes and pettiness.
Well, it does, but it also speaks volumes, as I spoke of a few months earlier about my vindication, where there was a conspiracy and there was a coup by the entrenched bureaucrats to run the building. And the lawsuit speaks to that. In fact, it's entrenched in the lawsuit, in the plain words within the four corners of those pages, that there was a coup to take me out. Why? Because the bureaucrats are trying to run the building. That is unacceptable. People must stand up. We must take back the swamp here in Jeff City. People think of the swamp occurring only in DC. Well, it's deeper here than people imagine. And the fight is today. We have to fight for our Constitution. You have to have elected individuals represent you up here, not unelected bureaucrats. It is here today. It is here now. It's here August the 6th. And that's what we're going to keep fighting for.
So are you going to settle this? Or are you going to go Trump?
Oh, there's nothing to settle. These are baseless claims, clearly politically driven. Why is it filed within 60, 65 days of an election? Really? I mean, read the claim.
It does read like some junior high whining almost. It does read like someone who did not get what they wanted in session, kind of like the Democrats didn't get what they wanted with Trump. It looks like somebody who's probably, if you look at the cash on hand, the leading candidate for an office. And it looks like somebody trying to go to lawfare, just like they did with Trump.
Well, we had a successful session, and I think people are frustrated at that. We mandated that only Missouri citizens should vote. I think that's key. We do not want illegal aliens coming into Missouri voting.
Unless Eric Burleson finds them, then I guess they could maybe get registered.
Elections must be fair and transparent, and only citizens should vote. We raised the teacher pay. We increased student choice for parents and students on where they go to school.
Talk about that for a minute. That was a big deal.
It was.
I mean, that was a big deal that I think when they saw the Senate and they saw the bureaucracy fighting with you, the senators fighting with the senators, I do think I saw a thing Mission Impossible. I was pessimistic you could pass a big deal like that.
We got that across the line. We sent troops to the border to help, the Governor Abbott.
Yeah.
They requested help from states to go down and protect the border. With 10 million illegal immigrants crossing the border in the last 4 years, every state is a border state. We have to fight against fentanyl. We passed an omnibus crime package that has enhanced sentencing for fentanyl. It's coming in, killing our kids, killing families. That was huge. Representative Lane Roberts out of Joplin carried that for 2 years.
He's kind of a serious guy.
Very serious, a very well-respected person. He was the chief of police during the Joplin tornado. He's been in the grind. He knows what it takes to make hard decisions and work for people. He is truly a dedicated public servant.
I'd hate to talk about Joplin without mentioning the absolute tragedy that happened to one of your caucus members, Ben Baker's daughter and son-in-law. I mean,
horrible.
Whatever you think of politics, my God, I literally, when I heard that, I couldn't help but think of my own daughter and just
Natalie's commitment, Davey's commitment to their cause, what they were doing. It was a very moving funeral.
It kicks you in the gut.
Yeah.
And you think about that guy and his family, and you just hope that they're able to continue on. And I can't imagine what that was like down there. Let's talk about some other stuff you got done in session. I mean, it actually was I guess, honestly, to me, surprisingly effective session. The budget, cut the budget. You finally, a lot of your predecessors have been speaker, and let's be honest, they can't really claim much of that budget was theirs. You could claim under your speakership this last year, a lot of that budget was the House.
I believe we passed a conservative budget. I think we have to be responsible on how we're allocating state resources. We don't want to grow to the entitlement programs, but we want to invest responsibly in Missouri. And I think we've done that by investing in our teachers, investing in our schools, investing in infrastructure. Highway 70 is huge. Highway 44.
Now that you're running statewide, you think, well, that extra lane could be awfully
Oh, yeah. Right.
When you run for re-election, that'll be a nice thing to do.
I don't think those lanes are going to be built for a long time, unfortunately, but I could use a third lane right now. I can tell you that.
So we're talking about going forward. How's the race going?
It's going well. I mean, I'm getting out there, meeting the people for the state, just at all four corners. Missouri, as we all know, is a huge state. We just finished a legislative wrap up discussing a little bit about what we accomplished this year.
I like that. You actually went and saw Missourians.
Well,
cool.
I asked to be elected by the people. I think I should own it and go to the people and explain what we're doing to work for them.
Campaign technique of actually traveling Missouri. We used to see that as folks made you go and kick the tires all around the state. The Missourians have kind of got out of the habit of forcing.
Well, it was motivating, and people are excited. We show up at these big and small towns alike, all across the state of Missouri. They are angry at what's going on in D.C. They are just flabbergasted at the assault on democracy, the assault on our Constitution, and the witch hunt that our president is under. Folks are
pissed.
They are, and I think they have every right to be. I mean, looking at how that New York prosecutor handled the claim, 34. I mean, I feel really bad for President Trump and his family. I feel that he too should be vindicated. But what
folks need to know about what the president and yourself have went through. What are folks that they're not in office? Well, what do they need to know about the emotional toll that takes on you and your family?
Well, I think that people need to look. I mean, here we're on June the 5th, a day shy of D-Day. Democracy is not free. You have to fight for it. And just as soldiers went out and gave their lives for our country, the politicians are out there and they're elected and answerable to the people. And right now, it's unelected bureaucrats that are trying to run this country. It's unelected bureaucrats that are trying to run the state of Missouri. Voting is a huge civic responsibility, and you got to be very honored and proud to live in this great state and in this great country. We have to fight for the Constitution. We have to fight for our right to vote, to make sure that only citizens are voting in the state of Missouri. Get out and vote. Hold your elected representatives accountable. That's why we're doing it, not to bring in unelected bureaucrats who are trying to manipulate the system.
I don't trust the government, period. But if you're an attorney, if someone's watching what's happening to President Trump, I think it's a very correct and natural skepticism to have about the legal process. When you see that, I mean, I'll be honest with you, a good buddy, my former colleague is Chris Kelly, guy I like a lot, respect his opinion a great deal.
Oh, yeah.
I asked him, he was like, well, Trump does it. Yeah, okay, fine. Do I think Trump would have probably did? I don't even know what he's charged with, to tell the truth. I don't understand what they're even alleging. But whatever he was convicted of, I was like, to me, the definition of a political prosecution is, if this person wasn't in politics, would they be prosecuted for this? And I think not only if Trump would have been in politics, he still wouldn't have been prosecuted. The only reason he was prosecuted is because he won.
Well, and that's what we find ourselves in here in Missouri. They're coming after me because we win, because we're pushing conservative ideologies that we run on. I think democracy is not free. There's supposed to be a separation of powers between the executive, legislative, and judiciary. And I think it's a sad state of affairs when unelected bureaucrats are meddling in the judiciary, meddling in the legislative branch, and meddling in the executive branch. And that's what we have in D.C., and that's what we have in Missouri. And I think the citizens should be well aware of that. When they come out and vote, they need to protect our Constitution and fight for their right to be represented in the state of Missouri.
So let's talk about what's your cash on hand right now, race.
I think about 1.5, somewhere around there.
That's I think all the other folks in the race would trade you.
Well, I work hard to go around and spread the message of what we're doing and why we're doing that. I've tried to do that to work well with the House of Representatives. I'm really proud of the 163 members this year for working hard. And I think with the harder you work, the more lucky you are. That's what I've always been taught too. And I'm blessed to be in the situation I'm in. I'm the front runner, I believe, for Secretary of State. And I believe that's why they're throwing arrows at me.
So TV, you got a date you're going up on TV yet?
We're going to work on the media. There's no doubt. I mean, I'm not exactly excited for that. I've never been on television like that before, but it's part of the process. I need to get out there. I've enjoyed going around to the different counties, how many counties we've been to. We're going to go to a whole lot more. It's going to be arduous 60 days. And I like meeting the voters.
Ashcroft did. He went to 114 courthouses when he was running for Secretary of State. I thought that was no pressure, But if you need some advice, I can tell you some pretty ones. But I thought that was a cool thing he did. He went and saw every single one of them. Now that takes some work, as you know. It ain't no easy drive to get from Portageville to Zell's hometown up in Rockport.
No.
There ain't no straight road there. But it is a beautiful, massive state.
It is a long state in different directions and different environments, different economies. But what is important to the people is that their constitutional rights are being protected, that they have a voice up here in Jefferson City. And I've enjoyed going around meeting them. They're excited, they're angry, they're frustrated. They look forward to this election in August, and they're really looking forward to the election in November.
There's really no one on the ballot that can claim the narrative you can claim. There's really no one on this ballot that can say, I have fought and been people have came at me like you can.
Well, I don't think my wife and children are envious of that, or
Well, I bet you there's some other folks over Secretary of State that are.
Well, it's a privilege to be able to be in a position where you can actually take on the bureaucrats. It's a privilege to represent 36,000 people and to ask to represent 6.1 million people to protect the vote in the state of Missouri.
I know a friend of mine that was at a speech he gave this weekend, and she told me the best part of the speech where he talked about, look, I have some understanding of what the president's going through. It feels like that message permeates with Republican voters.
It does. It's not just me under attack. It's the president under attack. Governor Abbott's under attack. But I think Republicans feel like they're under attack. When you say you're for President Trump, yeah, they're like, oh, the liberal Democrats are that's blasphemous. That's horrible. But listen, Trump is a man of action. He's not bought and paid for by the lobbyists or special interest groups. I don't think you should be when you're running for office. And when you're not bought and paid for, you get attacked. And that's what we as Republicans are getting attacked because the bureaucrats are running our government. They're trying to tell us what to do. We've got to stand up and fight for that this August and November.
I thank my buddy Robbie for giving me this. Look at Springfield Cardinals championship. Stein, appreciate that. But I was down there for your old colleague Elijah Har's wedding. I had to go to Berry County. Kelton, when's the Berry County episode going to be? Is that today? Tomorrow?
Later today.
Nice. Got this Stein. Always want to thank the folks at United Fiber up in the great Northwest, as Senator Hagan would say. And, Dean, if you're bringing somebody to town, if Rebecca's coming to town, I have a hard time believing she stays in that rat hole that you live in during session.
No, in fact, there's a place called the Little Marriott, right? It's a nice, quaint hotel, and it is first class. The Marriott, there's nothing that compares to it in Jefferson City. It's the only place to stay.
If it's good for Miss Plocker, I would say it's good enough for you if you're coming to town this summer. Coming in for the state fair, you will come over to the Capitol for a little bit before you head over to stay at the Courtyard by Marriott. Tell folks end of the day, they walk into that box, that ballot booth on a hot day in August. Why should they vote for you?
Dean Plocker is going to fight for them. I will stand up for their constitutional rights. I'll stand up for a fair and impartial elections that are transparent, where only Missouri citizens vote. I will fight for them just as I fought for them in the House. And I'm not afraid to take on the entrenched liberal bureaucrats.
Speaker Plocker, I sure appreciate the time. I hope you'll come back here and visit with us. Maybe from the trail, do this next one somewhere.
Happy to do so,
this week
Scott.
Missouri Policy Midweek. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We'll be back with you Sunday. Garrett Hawkins, the president of Rural